Well, welcome everyone. I'm Professor David Loertscher from the School of Information at San Jose State University in California. And I'm delighted today to interview Ann Jones from Maryland. And Ann, tell us about yourself and your school.
Okay, well, my name, as you said, is Ann Jones, and I work at Windy Hill Middle School in Owings, Maryland. We are about an hour outside of Washington, D.C., considered a rural area. We're right along the shores of the Chesapeake Bay in southern Maryland. But we're very close to Baltimore, Annapolis, and Washington, D.C. We have 740 students, kind of a middle-class community of students here at Windy Hill. And our grades are 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Great, yeah. So of all the great things that you do with the students and teachers, today we're going to kind of concentrate on the world of information. Could you describe the information environment that you've built for the patrons that you have?
Sure. So physically, in my library, I have about 8,000 books. My goal is to have a collection that reflects my population of students. And then I just had classes come through, and I really also encourage them to access my website. I tell them when you can't physically be here in the library, there's an online presence, kind of your virtual library. And on there, we have access to ebooks and audiobooks. All of our students, we have a partnership with our public library, and they have something called a CRAB card where they can access all kinds of databases, different programs like that. And so I just really encourage them to use both our online virtual library for information and books and databases, as well as the physical library and our public library. It's very important.
That's great. And so inside that information, so it's not only providing it for them, but what do you do to tell us about your information scout strategy that you have?
Yeah, well, this is a favorite lesson because, in the 19 years since I've been a school librarian, both information and technology have exploded, as we all know. And that's a good thing, but it's also a huge challenge for students. And so I really want to help instill kind of the skills and habits in them to find credible information. And so I came across this TED Talk by a woman named Julia Galef at Penn State University. And she was talking about this concept of a mindset, of a soldier mindset versus a scout mindset. And it's like we're in an information war, and kids can kind of connect to that concept. You got soldiers and you have scouts. And a soldier mindset is where they're standing their ground, they're being defensive, they just want to defeat the enemy, and that's what they're focused. Their adrenaline is up, and that's kind of a soldier mindset. Whereas a scout is somebody that goes ahead of the army, and a scout is looking for what's really there. They want to understand if something has changed and they need to go back and say, I was wrong. They're excited about getting new information. And so they have a different emotion around it. They're excited about it versus defensive. And so the kids in this lesson, they listen using an Edpuzzle to this TED Talk and try to understand that. And then they're given kind of a toolkit of like a checklist. It's like an internet investigation checklist where they learn to read and analyze and corroborate what they're finding. And then I put out there examples of articles that are just really simple, like ravens taking food from grocery store parking lots in Alaska. And kids are like, there's no way they would fly away with a steak. And the kids just immediately have their immediate reaction is the emotion that, no, this is false.
Yeah.
And I tell them, step back and set emotion aside and apply your skills that we just learned, and then cast your vote. So it's a great opportunity for them to learn the skills, to be a scout, set the emotion aside, have an emotion of being excited and not basing your self-worth on whether you're right or wrong, but your self-worth is based on just knowing what's really there. And so I love this lesson. I try to do it with all my students early in the year, and then reinforce it for whatever project they're working on. Or if we're talking about social media and sharing crazy stories, well, is this real or fake, and that kind of thing, just applying it in multiple ways.
Tell us about the History Day project you have and how you wind all this information skill into that.
Yeah, National History Day, Calvert County, my county has been very involved in that for years. And it's a great research project for kids because they're taught skills that they're going to be using in high school and college. And that's one reason I love it. But I also love it because they set a theme, and that theme, they can then pick any topic that falls within that theme. So, but the biggest challenge with this project is that most topics have so much information. And so students have to learn to pick and choose the information, right? They have to create sort of an outline of how are they going to tell their story? I always tell them, start your project like pretend I don't know anything about the Korean War or whatever their topic is, and you're going to give me the context and tell me the story and how it ties to the theme. And so they can talk to me about it, and then it's a matter of finding the facts to plug in that are accurate, reliable. I always begin with databases with them because our databases are accurate. They're written at their level, and they're also easy to cite in a bibliography. But the challenge comes when they go beyond the databases and Library of Congress and the archives website, and now they're out on the internet trying to find factual information, and that's when they have to become a scout. Yeah, so History Day is an excellent example of also, working with our social studies teachers, getting those classes in and really helping them to create a good project.
Right. And does this scout idea work in other parts of the curriculum?
I like to think that the scout mindset just in general teaches kids to be curious and want to learn more, right? Be curious and have intrigue around finding out things. And so obviously literature and books is a big part of the library. And one thing that I encourage with every class that comes in, and we just talk about different books. And, I see books in two ways. My fiction section, I see that I have books that are like a mirror where they reflect, you see yourself in the story. And I think that's really important, for our diverse population to see themselves in a book. And then there's also where they're seeing people different from themselves, situations or people from different places. And that's like looking through a window at the world out there. And I talk to my kids about having, we all have blinders on. We're all raised in our bubble, in our community, in our family. And as we get older, it's important to peel those blinders back. And books are a great way to do that. And so being a scout, having that curiosity, wanting to see what's really there in our state, in our county, in our country, in our world is so important. We have a student here whose mother is from Ukraine, and she went to Ukraine last year and brought her niece and nephew back here to Calvert County, and they are now in the schools here learning English in our ESOL program. And so it's really important that these kids learn about kids from other places and what they're going through.
Yeah.
So,
Lots of schools need a person like you that that is teaching this whole idea of information and choosing the best and reliable. So what advice would you have to for principals or boards that would like to have this component in their schools and libraries? How do they,
yeah. Well, first of all, I know that there are some school districts that don't have libraries, and I just think it now more than ever, it is so critical. It is a support to teachers and what they're trying to accomplish. They can't take on, these things and do their own curriculum as well. So school libraries are critical. I feel like if the whole information piece, being taught, students being taught kind of these skills early in the school year and reinforced throughout and reinforced across the staff, across the faculty, so that we have a common language, a common understanding, and a common expectation from our students as to how they're going to be when it comes to addressing inquiry, whether it's science or social studies or, whatever the content area.
That's a great point. So do you see a progress across the year as you start with a scout idea, and then do you see it appear and transferred as students encounter, anything in the curriculum?
Right. I do, but one thing I think any educator knows that repetition is important, because students need to hear it over and over, especially if it's a new concept. And that's why I like to do it with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, so that hopefully by the time they're in 8th grade, this whole scout mindset is a little bit more reinforced, both here in the library and in classrooms around the building. So when I hear students saying, "Hey, Ms. Jones, I was a scout today because I did this," I'm like, "Oh, yes. Yeah. Let's get through. It's good. It's, it's sticking." Or I've had students come back to visit from high school and just share stories with me about how they saw some article that looked real, but it was fake, and how they knew, and they said in the middle of their class that this is why, and they had applied that checklist that they had learned. So, yeah.
So considering this whole world of information in libraries and kids, what is the bottom line, Anne?
I think, the bottom line is that these kids are going to be, we want to raise them up and bring them through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade to be not just, students who can find credible information and, consumers and creators of information, but we want them to become adults, citizens of this world, right? And in their careers, in their communities, we want them to be able to decipher between fake news and credible information, and be creators of that as well, credible information. So I just think that's a critical life skill that we can instill in them, not just with their school research, but just as a good human being.
That's great. Well, thank you, Anne, for all that you do for young people and in the world of information. We really appreciate you taking the time to help us all understand that.
Oh, well, thank you for this
opportunity.
opportunity.
And thank you.
Okay, thank you.